Okay, let's get started. For those of you that are new, for those of you that need a refresher, really, really good idea to think in terms of what we call the 4 pillars of a stretch or 4 steps to a stretch. So, the first step is the start position. So, we're going to do a stretch for the top of the shoulders, also associated with the small intestine meridian in Chinese medicine. And so, to get into the start position, pillar 1, I want you to get into an athletic stance in the legs. So, that means your legs are about shoulder width apart, your knees are bent, slightly bent, and you're going to hear us tell you over and over again to tuck the tailbone. It's a pretty dramatic tuck, and put the ribs in the body. So the opposite of this. Don't do this. Do the opposite. So tailbone tucked, ribs in the body. Palms together at forehead height or higher and elbows wide. That's your start position. Step 2 is the resistance. And so to create resistance in this particular stretch, you're going to press your palms together. Both hands are going to press together. And as soon as you do that, you should feel your arms and your shoulders tighten up. Okay, you're going to continue to press your palms together for the third step, which is the lengthening, drawing the elbows together against the resistance. And then the fourth step is letting it all go, relaxing, and returning to the start position. So we have pillar 1, start position. Tailbone tucked, ribs in the body, palms together, elbows wide. Pillar 2, resistance, pressing the palms together. Pillar 3, lengthening while you resist, drawing the elbows together while you continue to press your hands together. Pillar 4, let it all go and return to the start position. So let's do a dozen or so of these. We are pressing our hands together while we draw our elbows together, and then we're releasing all the tension and returning to the start position. And this is a great stretch for the upper back, the triceps, the shoulders, the neck. Also really helpful for small intestine. And believe it or not, if you have depression, this is a great stretch to do. So we're going to press our palms together and draw our elbows together against that resistive force. Something that's really important to keep in mind when you're doing the bendable body method is that it should not feel like traditional stretching. It's the polar opposite of traditional stretching. It's resistance stretching, and it targets the fascia. And something you may or may not know about fascia is that fascia doesn't have sensation in your body like other tissues do. So it doesn't feel the way other tissues do, and so the stretch isn't going to feel the way other stretches would, right? Because we're not getting to any of those attachment points that traditional stretching and yoga kind of go after. So we're pressing the hands together and drawing the elbows together. It should be a workout. It should be heating up. This is the fire element in Chinese medicine, small intestine. So I'm definitely heating up. Pressing those palms together and drawing those elbows together. Let's do a few more. 1, 2. Are you feeling impatient with me, John? You can take over. 3. Go ahead and shake out the arms. And let's see how the shoulders feel. Turning the head to the right and the left, kind of checking in what happened. It's always a really good idea to check in and see what happened so that you can notice if there's been a change. Okay, so now we're going to go into another stretch for the shoulders and the neck, only it's got a slightly different orientation, this time associated with the large intestine meridian. So remember, pillar 1, start position. I'm going to tuck my tailbone, put my ribs in my body, take my right arm and put it at a right angle. This is the arm that I'm going to stretch. Then I'm going to take my left palm, reach across my body, and cup around the bulbous part of my elbow joint. So my palm is right over the elbow joint. I'm going to press that arm toward the back of my body while I use my left hand, my helper, to pull my right arm to center against resistance, and then release and return. So I am pulling my right arm to center while my right arm resists that movement and presses back. I am pulling my right arm to center while my left while my right resists the pulling. So I'm pressing my right arm back and pulling it to center against resistance. Pressing back and pulling it to center. So that left hand should be working hard. It's strength training actually, because it's pulling the left arm to center against resistance. A lot of times we see it pushing. So if you're pushing, you're doing it wrong. You are pulling the right arm to center against resistance. And we're getting a really nice stretch in that right shoulder, top of the shoulder, like the deltoid area, for those of you that want the specific muscle. Pressing the arm back and pulling it to center against resistance, releasing and returning to the start position. So we're only creating resistance and force in one direction. And the whole time, the main thing I feel is my elbow pressing into my hand. That's the big thing that I feel, and that's how I know I'm doing it right. All right, let's check that out and see what happened. So go ahead and drop the arms and close your eyes. It's a really good idea to close your eyes to check in. Can you feel that the right shoulder dropped? You probably can see that mine dropped if you look at the screen. And if you turn your head to the right and turn your head to the left, it should feel like there's an absence of something in the neck on the right side compared to the left side. You also might find that you have an increased range of motion when you turn to the right versus the left. So see what you notice. Always a really good idea to check in. Let's go to the left side. So tailbone tucked, ribs in the body. Left arm is at a right angle. Right palm is cupped around that left elbow joint. And I'm going to press the left arm back while I pull it to center against resistance. I am pressing that arm back while I pull it to center against resistance. Resisting and lengthening. And resisting and lengthening. And again. And again. Nice job, everyone. Resisting and lengthening. Nice. You got it. Resist and lengthen. And resist and lengthen. And again. And again. And again. So remember, start position, resistance, lengthening against resistance, release and return. So we're pressing that left arm back and pulling it to center against resistance. My right arm is working hard to overcome that resistive force and pull the arm to center. And John's checking everybody out, so if you're doing it wrong, we're going to let you know. Pressing that arm back and pulling it to center against resistance. Nice. Let's do 3 more. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, cool. So let the arms drop and let's check in. What happened there? Oh yeah, both shoulders have dropped. When I turn my head to the right and I turn my head to the left, I can feel the relief and the elongation in the neck on both sides. So that's an immediate change in flexibility and an improvement in fascia health. So let's go to the chest, okay? So we've done 2 stretches for the shoulders and the upper back. Let's do something for the chest. This one's associated with the pericardium meridian. It's kind of like the upper chest, just below the clavicle. So I'm gonna take my hands and interlace them behind my back. I'm going to tuck my tailbone, put my ribs in my body. The reason that we have you do that is so that you don't substitute biomechanically. And you want to turn your shoulders in, maintain a gentle bend in both elbows, okay? So there's the start position, my knee, always an athletic stance. To create resistance, I feel like I'm pulling my hands apart, but they're not going to actually separate, and that tightens up the chest and the biceps. I'm going to continue to do that while I fold forward and lift my arms against that resistive force. Right? And then relax and return to the start position. This is actually a really good stretch to demonstrate the difference between traditional stretching and the bendable body method, right? So traditional stretching, you'd go right to the end range and then pull harder. We never even get there, right? So we're really not doing that. So tucking the tailbone, ribs in the body, pull those hands apart to create resistance and target the fascia, and fold and lift while you continue to pull your hands apart. So how do you know when to stop lifting? When you can no longer resist maximally. That's when the stretch is over, because you'll no longer be dealing with fascia and you'll start to go into joint structures, and we don't want to do that. So tucking the tailbone, ribs in the body, pulling those hands apart, and folding and lifting. Nice. Back to the start, tucking the tailbone, ribs in the body, pulling those hands apart, and folding and lifting. And again, back to the start, tailbone tucked, ribs in, pull those hands apart while you fold and lift. Nice. Let's do 4 or 5 more of these. Tailbone tucked, ribs in, pull those hands apart while you fold and lift. And again, how's everybody doing, John? Folding and lifting. Haven't really given you too many difficult stretches yet, so you should have it figured out. Folding and lifting. And again. Nice. Let's do one more good one. Pull those hands apart while you fold and lift. Cool. All right, let's shake that out. That's actually a great stretch. I know it's summertime, so it's not such a big deal, but if you suffer from cold hands and feet, really nice stretch to do. Helps with that a lot. So you can kind of check in, see what that did for your shoulders, your neck, your chest. Did it open up a little bit? What happened there? Okay, let's go into another stretch for the chest, only this time it's associated with the heart meridian. Still the biceps and the chest, just a little bit more the center of the chest, I would say. So I'm going to use the high part of a chair. You could also use like a countertop or the back of a couch or the back of a stuffed chair, something along those lines. And I'm going to put my hands on the chair. I've got a gentle bend in my elbows. I'm going to tuck my tailbone, put my ribs in my body. To create resistance, I'm going to press my hands down and squeeze them together. Okay, so 2 points of force, pressing down and squeezing together. And when I do that, that contracts or resists the biceps and the chest. I'm going to continue to do that while I walk away and look up. And then I'm going to go back to the start position. Tailbone tucked, ribs in the body. Press the hands down, squeeze them together. Walk away and look up. And then back to the start. Tailbone tucked, ribs in the body. Press the hands down, squeeze them together. Walk away and look up. And back to the start. Tailbone tucked, ribs in the body. Press the hands down, squeeze them together. Walk away and look up. So this is kind of like our version of downward dog for those of you out there that do yoga. So getting into a good start position, tucking the tailbone, putting the ribs in the body, pressing the hands down, squeezing them together. Walk away and look up. You want to keep those ribs up while you walk away. And then back to the start, tailbone tucked, ribs in. Press the hands down, squeeze them together. Walk away and look up. And back to the start. Tailbone tucked, ribs in. Press the hands down, squeeze them together. Walk away and look up. And back to the start, tailbone tucked. I just got a nice adjustment in my spine. Pressing those hands down, squeezing them together, walking away and looking up. Let's do one more good one. Back to the start, tailbone tucked, ribs in. Press those hands down, squeeze them together, walk away and look up. Nice, cool. Great, so there's a nice heart stretch. Okay, so let's do a hamstring stretch. Actually, I'm going to keep the chair, okay? So if you've got a chair, that's going to be useful. Only turn it around because we're going to use the seat of the chair this time. And this is a stretch for the lateral hamstring associated with the bladder meridian. Some of the toughest tissue in the body universally, we find on everybody. If you're at a point in life where you're starting to wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, this stretch will help you tremendously to not have to do that so you can get a full night's sleep. So you want your elbows on the seat of the chair so that your shoulders are at hip height or even lower. You don't want your shoulders higher than your hips. And then you want to get your feet right under your hips. And I'm going to shift the weight to my left foot because that's the leg I'm going to stretch first. There's a gentle bend in that knee. And I'm going to go ahead and slowly lift my right leg and extend it back, keeping my hips nice and square to the floor. And so that's what gets the stretch in the back outside of that left leg. And then I'm going to bring my feet back together. Question we almost always get regarding this stretch is, where am I resisting? So if you're asking yourself that, you are not alone. The resistance is happening naturally because your left leg is holding up your body weight. So it naturally resists and contracts. Okay, so it's happening. You don't really have to do much to resist in this stretch. You definitely want to start with your feet together and then slowly lift that right leg, keeping the hips nice and square. And then bring your feet back together. And again, slowly lift that right leg. You can also sit your hips back a little if you want and straighten out the leg a little bit if you want as you lift. And you'll feel it. You should be feeling it. Slowly lifting that leg. The reason we go slow is because that's how we get the stretch. If you go fast, you're going to miss it.
We actually posted on Instagram last night a really cool way to do this stretch. If you go to our Bendable Body feed, you can watch it. It's really neat. I think you'd like it. And we are lifting that right leg to stretch out the left lateral hamstring. Really want to keep the ribs up. Don't want to lift the leg too high. Nice. Let's do 2 more on this side. 1. And 2. Cool. All right, come on up to standing.
And let's see what happened. Oh, wow. So just close your eyes and do a little scan of the left side of your body compared to the right. First of all, can you just feel that the whole left side feels longer and more relaxed, right? And that was just from that one stretch. It's really kind of a biggest bang for your buck kind of stretch. The next thing you might notice, a little more subtle, is that the hip is more open on the left side. And then a third thing you may or may not notice is that your foot is placed softer on the ground on the left compared to the right. So it's like the whole leg softened, lengthened, opened. Really, really nice stretch. Okay, great stretch if you have low back pain. So let's do the other side. I'm going to flip around so that the leg I'm stretching is facing you, but you don't need to do that. You can stay right where you are. We're going to be down on our elbows. We've got our feet under our hips. We're going to shift the weight to our right foot, gentle bend in that right leg. And then slowly lift the left leg, sit the butt back, and straighten up the knee a little bit. Then bring the feet together. And again, slowly lift that right leg, sit the hips back, straighten out the knee. Bringing the feet together. And again. Nice job. Resisting and lengthening. And again. Nice. Let's do 8 or so more of these. You can't do too many hamstring stretches. Nice. Remember, you want to start with your feet together. And you don't want to lift the leg too high. You want to go nice and slow. And you want to keep your ribs up. Don't let your ribs stick out. Range of motion is not flexibility, and it's not what we're about here. We're about changing the fascia. So you'll rarely see us try and produce any kind of extreme ranges of motion. Nice. And actually, the two things, flexibility and range of motion, it's kind of like comparing apples and oranges. All right, let's do 2 more good ones. 1, nice, and 2. Cool. All right, let's come on up to standing and let's check in and see what happened there. Really good idea to close the eyes so you can scan the body. I mean, the first thing I noticed, I have to stand with my legs a bit wider because they feel longer. And so I feel like I need more space to fit them under me. Of course, both feet are now softly placed on the ground. I feel that opening in the hips, the relaxation on both sides of my body. So see what you notice. Really good idea to check in. So that was the warm up. I mean, we were stretching. And now John's going to take over and I'll be popping in and out to do any standing versions if he gets down on the ground.
Okay, we're going to stay standing and we're going to do the other hamstrings. The first one we'll do is the medial for the pancreas. It's the back inside of the leg here. So let's get a stance about shoulder width or maybe wider. And we're going to bend our knees slightly. And we're going to squeeze our heels toward each other. Keep the pelvis neutral or extended. And I like to press my hands together above my head just to keep my torso quiet. Continue to squeeze your heels together while you fold forward and then let that resistance go and come back to standing. So squeeze your heels together. Don't let your knees cave in. Just keep them neutral. Keep squeezing your heels as you fold forward and then relax on the way up. And I also always mention to breathe in and out through your nose. It's a really healthy way to breathe, but keep any cadence you want to keep, any breathing cadence, breathe any way you feel like breathing. Let it go. Squeeze the heels together. I'm keeping the pelvis neutral. Let it go. Now I'm going to go a little wider with my feet, just like an inch or two on each side. We're stretching the medial hamstring. Let it go. So I'm squeezing my heels together before I start to fold forward, and then continue to resist throughout the entire motion. And then let it go. Couple more. Just a couple more. Resist, 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 and relax on the way up. Okay. Shake that out, and just move around a little bit and see what you notice. I noticed Sita mentioned her legs went wider a little bit after bladder. I'm noticing my legs get closer together because the inside can shorten a little bit, and I feel a little more room in the hips and more open chest. So now we're going to go to the central hamstring, the center back of the leg, which is the brain muscle group. So we're just going to take a little step forward, like a half step forward with the foot you're going to stretch. I'm stretching my right foot, and I'm close to a wall because I want to hold on to the wall to keep my balance. And my foot is aiming straight ahead. It's aiming straight ahead, and my knees are bent a little. And I'm pulling that front heel back toward me, resisting continuously while I fold forward and then relax and come back up. So we're stretching the central hamstring because we have 3 hamstrings. And this is associated with the brain. It runs along the brain meridian, more commonly known as the governing vessel in Chinese medicine. It's a great stretch to do before you go to sleep if you have trouble sleeping. Now, your foot doesn't have to be up like mine, but it's just the main force is the heel pulling back toward you. Keep those ribs in your body, tailbone. Now, I always say tailbone tucked, but you want a neutral tailbone. You just don't want it pitching forward. You want it sitting back a little bit. And the only reason for that really is to generate more force and less substitution, because you want to really change the tissue on the back of this leg that we're stretching right now. Let it go. So resist before you start to move, and you can use that opportunity to reposition yourself. As soon as I pull my heel back, my right hip moves forward, so I want to shift that hip back a little bit, because that shows me where I'm substituting and compensating. So we're stretching the central hamstring. Let it go. Resist continuously. Pull that heel back and relax as we stand up. Let it go. Let it go. Okay. So shake that out a little bit. See what's different. If you notice anything from the right side to the left side. Shoulder, knee, ankle, foot, all relaxed and feeling better. Okay, so we'll take a little step forward with our left foot. Bend both knees. I'm going to be near the wall here just to hold on to the wall and pull that heel back. You can feel the back of your leg engage. Let it go. Resist continuously. Another thing you can do is, as you're folding forward at the waist, let's see if you can keep the head from dropping down. You want to keep the head moving with your spine and your torso. I tend to drop my head sometimes too. Keep your torso square to the ground, your hips square forward. Pull that heel back continuously as you stretch your central hamstring. Breathing in and out through your nose. Let it go. may notice a difference between one leg and the other. You might have more sensation on this side or less, or more force, or your body twists differently. Let it go. My back foot's turned out just slightly to help with the balance. Let it go. Let it go. This is a great stretch and great muscle group to stretch this way to help with the health of our knees. Creates space in the knee and takes the twist out and helps with knee pain. Okay, all right, shake that out. Now we're going to see what you notice, and we're going to go into the front of the thighs. We'll be on one knee. The first stretch we'll do is for our hip flexors, and Sita will show you one to do in a chair. But we'll go down on our right knee and our left foot forward. The lower leg behind you is straight behind you. The target leg is the leg we're kneeling on, the front of that leg. And I'm, again, near the wall to hold on for balance. So I'm sitting my hips back for the start position, pillar 1. Pillar 2, the resistance is pressing the knee forward into the mat, keeping the pelvis neutral. Keep that resistance while you move your hips forward, and then let it go and come on back.
So if you want to do this in a seated position, use both hands to lift the target leg up into the chest, and then take one of your hands and place it on top of your thigh, and continue to draw your knee toward your nose while you press away against resistance. And then lift the leg up again, resist, and press away.
And we're stretching the front of the body, the thigh, the front of the leg, the psoas major. And so be careful not to overstretch. So you want to keep your shoulders forward as you move forward with your hips, as opposed to opening up your chest, and then you lose the resistance, and then it's easy to overstretch the groin or the front of the leg here. Let it go. Sit the hips back to start. Pressing the knee forward continuously, and relax on the way back. And you can take a little peek back at your lower leg behind you, just to make sure it's straight behind you. Sometimes the leg's on an angle, and that affects the muscle group that you're getting. Continually drive the knee forward, and then relax on the way back. Drive the knee forward and move forward, and let it go. Let it go. Breathing in and out through your nose. So I'm noticing the breathing is much heavier in this stretch than it was in the hamstring stretches that we just did. Okay, let's gently just move around a little bit. See if there's anything you notice. I can feel energy going up the right side of my body into my face, relaxing that side of the face. This side feels tense. It's a little softer on that right knee moving around, so let's switch legs. It's always good to find what changed, but also what didn't change on the other side, to know what we're dealing with. So we'll sit our hips back to start, press the knee forward continuously as we move forward, and relax on the way back. So immediately I notice this side is significantly tighter. There's more force in the tissue here, less sensation. Let it go. I'm holding on to the wall for balance so I can concentrate on the resistance. Let it go. Keeping the ribs in your body, your tailbone tucked. Let it go. Let it go. Spending a little bit of time at the start, resisting, and then relax on the way back. The helper legs getting a little tired in the back of the calf and the hamstring. Let's stay with it and do a few more. And the range, how far you go, is determined by how much you can resist. So the resist is the knee or the leg driving forward. As long as you can keep driving that knee forward, driving that knee forward, driving that knee forward, you can go further in range. But you don't want to stretch into a muscle that's not contracting. Let it go. It does the opposite of what the resistance does. So the resistance improves the health of the fascia, and end range stretching without resistance creates dense fascia. Let it go. Okay, let's come out of this. We just stretched our hip flexors, and it'll give your hips a little movement, a little looser there. We're going to do some stretches for the shoulders. First, we're going to do the lats. These muscles here is associated with the appendix. You can do this with your forearms down on a table or on the seat of a chair, or we're going to do it on the mat. So 2 arms down on the mat with your palms up, and they can be side by side here. And you want to lean your body forward. So this is our start position. Now the resistance is pulling the elbows back toward your knees. Continue to pull your elbows back toward your knees as you sit back to stretch your lat muscles. Let it go and come back forward again. So I'm pulling my elbows back toward my knees. I'm making sure my ribs don't go down toward the ground, so I want to keep them in my body. Let it go. Relax your wrists, your hands as you resist and sit back, and then let it go as you come forward. So it's the back of my forearms, the back of my elbow, that are pulling back toward my knees, and they're also pressing into the mat. Let it go. Resist on the way back, and relax going forward. And then, as you're going through your set, you can reposition your hands. Sometimes they get closer and closer together. Then you want to reposition to maybe get them parallel to each other. Let it go. So the appendix, these lat muscle groups, when we stretch them like this, they help take toxins out of the brain and the face. So if you had any head injuries or concussions, this is a great stretch to do for a little while.
So the way that you would do this stretch is just at a table. There's not
Let
a
it
seated
go.
version. You would just put your shoulders on a table.
Put your
Or
forearms.
your elbows on
Yeah.
your forearms on a table. We don't have one present, so it's hard to demo that.
Okay. So let's just shake that out. Move your neck around. Now it's also associated with the health of your cartilage in your body. There's a lot of cartilage in our rib cage. So I always notice that's a little looser. Neck feels nice in the back. Now we're going to balance that stretch out with a stretch for the shoulders and the traps and the triceps. So we're going to also, be on our knees with our forearms down and palms up, but we're going to be sitting back to start the position and to start the stretch. And I like to tuck my toes under because your legs are going to propel you forward. But the first thing we do is our arms press forward into the mat. So they're pressing down and forward, and then continue to press forward while your body moves forward. And let it go and come on back. And then again, you want to relax those wrists and hands. My hands and wrists are a little closer to each other than my elbows are. Keep those ribs up in your body. I can feel it in the shoulders and the triceps on the back of the arm. And right away, I can feel the body heating up. This thymus muscle group in the shoulders, where we're stretching, turns on our immune system. So maybe some of you can feel the heat turning on in your body. You can do this anytime if you have a cold coming on or you want to work on your immune system this way. Let it go. Again, spend a little time in the start driving those arms forward finding your resistance, finding your positioning, and then keep that as you move forward. And let it go on the way back. Drive those arms forward first. Keep those ribs in the body. Continue, and then relax on the way back. Okay. All right. Shake that out and then see what you notice. Now, I notice the chest is much more open and broader. The shoulders feel more relaxed and wider. Now, we're going to do another arm stretch. This one's more for the back of the scapula, the skin meridian. It's improved the health of your skin, your nails, your hair, your lymphatic system. So again, you can do this on the seat of a chair, but we're going to be on the mat here. So your hands are going to be flat on the ground under your shoulders, and you want a little bit of a bend in your elbows. Press your hands down, like let the weight of your body come down through your hands. And your left hand's going to press out toward about 7 or 8 o'clock, and your right hand's going to press out toward 4 or 5 o'clock. And you're going to keep that resistance while you sit back and then relax and come forward again. So bend those elbows, bring your shoulders forward, press both hands out and back. Keep your ribs in your body and keep the resistance as you sit back and then relax coming forward. So remember the muscles that we're stretching on the lower part of the shoulder blade and the back of the arm. And you can put your attention there while you resist through the stretch. And it's a really nice stretch. Helps people deal with stress. Resist, 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 and relax going forward. So I'm starting to resist, pressing down and back right in the start. My ribs want to go down to the ground, so I got to balance out my torso a little. Let it go. Really feeling this in the triceps on the back of the arms. Resist, resist, resist. And I sometimes, because I arch up, and that helps keep the stretch in the target muscle. But the thing is, I want to focus on the muscles on the back of the shoulder blade. So I want to retract those muscles also. And that's where the balance of keeping the ribs in and retracting the muscles that we're stretching comes in. It's like a fine line. You got to find the positioning of your torso. So we're resisting on the way back. We're relaxing going forward. Just stay with the resistance all the way through. You don't have to resist a lot, but you want to resist continuously at whatever level you're resisting. Let it go. Let it go. Okay. Let's shake that out. And I feel the wrists looser and the hands looser. That's a great stretch for your wrists and your hands. Along with that pericardium stretch you did earlier with Sita. Now we're going to go back into the hamstrings. We're going to do a lateral hamstring stretch for the bladder. We'll be on one knee. And Sita will show you the standing version. I'm going to be on my right knee, left leg forward. And I'm going to have a bend in my left leg, but just slightly. We're going to fold forward at the waist. Turn your foot out a little bit. So if your left foot's forward, you want to turn it out to about 11 or 11:30. And the resistance is pulling your heel back toward you continuously while your body folds forward, and then relax as you come upright again.
So if you want to do this in a standing position, go ahead and step the left foot forward, turn the foot out ever so slightly, gentle bend in both knees, drive that left heel down and back, and fold forward to lengthen, keeping the tailbone tucked and keeping the ribs in the body.
And I'm, near my wall here, holding on for balance. Let it go. I notice I'm dropping my head. You want to keep the head moving with your torso. Don't drop your head because you'll lose a little bit of the force. Continually pull that heel back toward you. Pull that heel back toward you. And keep a bend in your knee. Now you can keep any bend you want. You can bend it a lot, or you can just bend it a little, but you want to, generally with stretching, you want to stretch along the path of greatest resistance. So that's why it's nice in the beginning to resist at the start position, find the resistance where you can generate the most resistance, and maybe that's with the foot just slightly turned out to the left. But this is the lateral hamstring, the bladder meridian, the back outside of our body. Let it go. Let it go. And you want to relax your foot and your toes as best you can, and just pull back through your heel. Okay, let's come out of that and let's move around, switch legs. See what you notice, anything. Ankle feels more stable, shoulders back in space. I noticed that more so than the other side. Now let's switch legs. I got my right foot forward, foot turned out ever so slightly to maybe 12, 15, and pulling that heel back continuously as we fold forward. Relax on the way up. And when we say turn the foot out, you know the muscle we're stretching, which is the back outside of the leg. And the hamstrings, they all attach up high at the bottom of the pelvis in the back here. But the one we're stretching now attaches to the lower leg on the outside. So you can feel the tendon on the back outside of the knee. If you're not feeling it there and you're feeling it on the back inside, then make an adjustment to your leg or foot and turn it out maybe a little more. Another thing you might want to do, now our hips are kind of fixed. We can tuck them a little bit, but as you're pulling your heel back and you're folding forward, feel like you're sitting your hips back in space. That'll give you another dimension of the stretch, another aspect. Keep pulling the heel back toward you, pulling the heel back toward you. And I'm feeling very differently on this leg than I did on the other leg. There's much more sensation all the way down the leg into the calf, which is fine. Just keep resisting, keep the ribs in your body, keep your head up, and let it go. Breathing in and out through your nose. Let it go. Okay, so let's come out of this. And we'll switch knees. We're going to stretch kidney. We just stretched bladder. Now the kidney is the groin. It's the front inside of the thigh here. So Sita will have a seated version. And so on your right knee and left foot forward, the lower leg is on an angle behind you. It's going to be the same movement as the hip flexor. We're going to sit our hips back, press our knee forward, and keep moving forward. But because our lower leg's on an angle behind us, we'll get the groin. We'll get the front inside of the leg. Continue all the way forward and relax on the way back.
So if you want to do this in a seated position, go ahead and crisscross whichever leg you'd like to start with on top of the opposite thigh. And draw the knee toward the opposite shoulder and take the opposite hand, place it on the inside of the knee, and resist while you press it away. And you want to be really careful about range on this. We're only stretching so long as we can generate maximal resistance so that we protect the joint.
And so there's a lot of things you can be focused on while we're doing this type of stretching. Of course, the resistance is primary to the movement, driving the knee forward. But to feel the greatest force, if you pay attention to the resistance, your body will start to move in such a way that will reduce any kind of compensation or substitution and produce the greatest resistance, the greatest force. And what that might do, it might limit your range of motion. It might shorten your range of motion, but you'll get a bigger change in the tissue that you want to change. Let it go. Let it go. So the front of the body is very easy to overstretch because the tissue generally isn't as tough. Let it go. So you have to be careful with your resistance and your movements. Let it go. Let it go. Kidneys are a great stretch to do for the health of our joints. It's great for arthritis and things like that. Okay, so let's come out of this. You can feel the other leg starting to tire out a little bit in the hamstring. And anything you can notice, the muscles alive and engaged on the front of that leg, and I can feel it running up the front of my body into my face, because that's where the kidney meridian runs up into. I don't feel that on the left side, so you can feel it energetically, you can feel it biomechanically, you can feel tired after you stretch the muscle group. Okay, so the lower leg behind you is on an angle. Sit your hips back, they're square, moving forward, your ribs are in your body, pressing the knee forward continuously, and relax on the way back. And again, it's not about keeping your balance. So, sometimes putting two hands on your thigh can help with your balance. Using an armchair nearby or the wall. Continually drive the knee forward, and let it go. Let it go. It is written that the fascia has 5 times as many nerve endings than our nervous system. But it's not wired in the same way. We don't feel it. Because when you resist, maximally, or you're in the point of greatest resistance, there generally is very little sensation. Resist, and relax on the way back. So we're stretching these kind of adductors and flexors of the thigh. Let it go. The front of the body tends to get tense, and the tissue on the back of the body accumulates more and becomes dense. That's kind of how it happens generally. Resist as you move forward, relax on the way back. Let's just do a couple more. We're stretching our kidney muscle group. Let it go. Breathing in and out through our nose. Let it go. Okay. All right. Just gently come on up to standing. Enjoyed stretching with you today. Thanks for showing up, and love to answer any questions. If you have any questions about the stretching, or you're curious to know you want to work on some part of yourself, maybe we can suggest a stretch to help you with that.